Perfect. Kevin, first obvious question: what is sustainable aviation for you?
Sustainability for me is to be able to cut the carbon emission and use whatever resources that we have for the fuel or even for certain parts of the airplane and make them reusable and more economical, more cost effective, and at the same time protect the environment. So that's sustainability to me.
What do you think? Do we need to go easier on business aviation companies because more taxation or more restrictions are not helping the industry, which obviously suffered from the pandemic? The goal is clear. We all want to do that. But sometimes the way it is presented or done doesn't motivate companies and has, in fact, a negative impact on companies.
Um, yes, Tatiana, we have to go easier on the business jet industry. Just because if you look at the impact that the private jet industry has on the carbon emission, it is a measly less than 2%. So if the government is allowed to tax this industry, they're going to stifle it, they're going to kill it. And you know what they're going to kill? They're going to kill the science aspect of it. So what does taxation do on something? It's not going to help anyone solve the climate change problem. The government's not going to take money from your private jet and go out there and help reduce the carbon emission. It's going to go to some other, their own strategy, their own wasteful spending. The government's never been the one to solve problems when it comes with taxation. But when you go out there and tax a particular industry like aviation, which is dependent upon science and invention, well, who's going to create those more uh, uh, you know awesome engines that we have, aerodynamics that we have, lighter, more impactful creation of an aircraft body? How do you do that? Well, you start taxing it. Well, people quit buying it, and then science is gone. The space industry gave us so much benefit from the science and inventions. Mattress, for example, comes from some space exploration. Well, aviation has also given us many, many other things when it comes to science, even to the benefit of the hospitals and the medical industry. The pharmaceutical industry has taken something from the science of aviation. So if you tax it because you're blaming the private jet industry for climate change, when we are only doing about 1.5% of the total emission, the taxation is not the deal.
Aviation industry did already a lot, and I think that I hardly could see who is moving as fast as aviation with all the technology proposals and so on. What you think would be the first future technology? Hydrogen, electrical, and what you think how is public is ready to accept these new technologies?
Well, uh, yes, hydrogen is great and electricity is great, but they are also, but not hydrogen. I don't know much about how far forward we have come. I haven't seen many hydrogen, driven cars as of yet, let alone airplane. I'm sure there is a future for it. Electricity, as we can already see, is having some sort of damage for the lithium mining and all the toxic waste that's going into the rivers and such. But the best thing that have at our hand currently available is a sustainable fuel, aviation fuel, which you get from the feedstock. So life cycle, 80% less carbon emission, but it's still expensive. So people are not really going out there to buy sustainable fuel, especially for the airline industry, which is the biggest consumer of all the jet fuel because we have all this traffic. I think what we need to do is we need to let companies like GE, Rolls-Royce, Bombardier, Gulfstream go out there and create more. It's about 40% less fuel consumption. We're flying higher, we're flying faster, and we're consuming less and less fuel. We're coming up with more better aerodynamic shape of an aircraft where you consume less and less fuel. The 787 Dreamliner, doesn't use the bleed air to pressurize its cabin. It's got electric pumps. And so it has a higher efficient engine, which consumes less and less fuel. This is more uh, you know, realistic than, let's go all electric with all the engines. It will take a decade for us to come out with an airplane that is as efficient and flies as fast as a jet when you put an electric engine on it. However, I'll tell you this, you could possibly use electric drones in a city like Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong to replace cars and fly 100 feet above the ground or something like that. That's in the near future for sure.
One question: do you think we should move or use a part of carbon emission offsetting money not to plant trees all over, but to invest in research and sustainable aviation fuel infrastructure?
Yes, and I'm vehemently against anybody selling carbon credits because they are planting a forest of trees. Because I think it gives you a false sense of security. We used to do that with our private jet charter clients, telling them, "Hey, you buy the certificate if you plant a tree in Amazon someplace." First of all, I don't have any proof that there was a tree planted. The life cycle of a tree is 20 years before it captures all the carbon that you emitted from a flight from Dallas to Aspen in 2 hours. But what that did was it gave a false sense of security to my clients. They thought, "Oh my God, I'm having no impact on the climate." So let's not do that. Let's not sell certificates that you can hang on the wall and say, I know I have in my conscience, I'm clear, I didn't burn any carbon today. What we need to do is we can, however, somehow, I don't think any money needs to be donated to this unless we go out there and create a fund where we have other people compete to create better aerodynamic or better engines. But GE is already on it. Rolls-Royce is already on it. One of the things, Tatiana, the biggest problem in the industry is if you look at the big players, there's no competition there, right? So how many engine producers are there? Pratt and Whitney, GE, Rolls-Royce. It's not like any other industry. If you look at the airline industry, how many airlines are there? There are 5 or 6 that you can choose from. There is not much competition there. So there's not really any incentive to go out there and create something. Wow, look, I consume only 10% fuel. It will take a drastic measure like people quit flying because the tickets are so expensive now, the fuel is so expensive, that the airlines go, "Hey guys, go out there and create an engine which consumes a lot less fuel, so it becomes more economical." And they don't have the incentive. So our industry doesn't really have a competition. If you look at the private aircraft sector, but what is the competition? Well, create the longest range airplane. It can fly nonstop for 48 hours. No purpose is served over there for the the current situation that we are facing. You put more fuel in the airplane and you keep flying 19, 20 hours. That's not what they need. We need efficiency. We need less and less carbon emission. And so planting more trees is a great deal, but it's not the solution.
A very interesting question. Private aviation is pointed out as bad guys, and you know that uh, even if we're not responsible for a lot of carbon emissions, we are still bad guys. You mentioned we need to educate younger generation about what exactly aviation industry does, how it helps in everyday life. But you mentioned a point which is very interesting. We need to educate our end users as well, how to communicate about private aviation, what to share and what not to share on social media and all over. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, so I mean, if you look at what a private jet is portrayed as in music videos, it's always something that is inaccessible to 99% of the people, and it's always with a lavish lifestyle where it's not productive but more of a renaissance. Like it's just a guy and his dog and a 80-seater, $20 billion, whatever. Have you ever seen a commercial? Have you ever seen a movie where a private jet was portrayed as absolute necessity. The guy is doing so much business, he's creating so many jobs. He's a young man and he's absolutely intelligent, and he's going out there creating jobs and creating factories and doing so much better for the world. We've never seen that. It's always portrayed as a wasteful, kind of a stupid person that is just an awful negative vibe. Maybe we could go out there and portray a private jet as a necessity. Okay. And how we can do that is if you point towards the infrastructure and ask a question: why do people use private jets? Well, we use private jets because your infrastructure is completely broken. The same government that's threatening to tax you for your carbon emission is the one that is responsible for your current infrastructure, right? So your airports are really poorly built. The runways are poorly built. The airlines are the same airlines that don't face any competition. It's the same 5 or 6 airlines that run that infrastructure, and you have no choice. So, in the end of the day, when you're beaten up by the TSA security agent to access the airline, when you buy the ticket to get on the airline that cancels your tickets and then tells you you have no other options but get the hell out of here and come back when you have the next flight, you are mentally, physically, spiritually drained. So you can't travel. So now, if you have money and you can travel by a private jet and go out there and expand your business 10 times, I would. If I can give 5 speeches in 5 different places in 2 days, would I choose an airline? Knowing fully well I have no control over the operation of it or the way I am treated or who I'm going to sit right next to? I can't run a business like that. To travel with my executives, yeah, let me use your infrastructure. I want to travel on your airline. I will give you the money. But will you promise me that there will be no cancellation? That some passenger's not going to go out there and have a fist fight, or your TSA agent's not going to take my pants off and my shoes off and humiliate me? So your infrastructure is broken. Your infrastructure is broken. So I go out there and I charter a private jet. And once in a while, I go on a vacation with my family. And if I post a video or photo on social media, now I become the pariah. At 1.5% of the carbon emission of this climate change, we are responsible collectively for 1.5%. But you want to tax me. You want to glue yourself to an expensive piece of art. You want to destroy something else in the name of climate activism. The point is moot. Here are the things that we can do. We have to continuously use NBAA, eBay's, and even Hollywood if we can approach them. And politicians, of course, NBAA and eBay's is already doing that. They are lobbying the EU and the USA and others to not tax the private jet users. But we have to go out there and educate people of how one chooses to become a pilot. How does one choose to become a flight attendant? Especially the crew members are younger and younger now, right? They could be our voice. They could post on social media, say, look what we accomplished today. Look what we built today. We are not wasteful individuals. This massive technology, this marvel of technology, this Iron Man that you dreamt of, this capability of flying like Superman, this capability of having the technology of what Batman used to have, it is not wasteful. It's not whimsical. This is something that we all dreamt of as children, to be pilots, to be flight attendants, to serve, to expand. And that's who we are. The science that came from private jet industry is being used in medical field, is being used in space technology, is being used to create jobs. You know what creates the biggest climate change carbon emitting methane gas? It's abject poverty. And when you look at some of these countries that are burying these landfills because they're not able to recycle the solid waste, 20 metric tons of methane is produced in some of these landfills. So I would request all these young people that are gluing themselves and destroying private jets and gluing themselves to an expensive piece of art, go to these landfills, clean the landfill, educate these people. You can cut 20% of the carbon emission right away. So why don't you do that? That is my appeal.
My last question is easy and complicated at the same time. if you should tell what would help you right here, right now. More communication with regulators, more communication with a politician. Uh, do we need to go for a round table where we get all together, uh, taking decisions with facing problems that we have on short term and looking for what to do in a different way to solve the problem, not to go deeper in problems.
Um, so, one thing we must now acknowledge that we have a bullseye on our back. Okay, so you are the target. You can communicate all you want with politicians. You can communicate all you want with 99% of the world. What we have to realize that we have a big bullseye on our back. We are an easy target. We're an easy target because it is something considered lavish. So we have to immediately start playing defense now while they are soft. And how we play defense is education, education, education. Using social media, using younger pilots, younger flight attendants that have access to social media, that are influencers, that they can influence the world by teaching them that, hey, listen, we have a bigger issue here. The methane production in some of these landfills, some of these war, for example. Nobody talks about the carbon emission that comes from war. So that is where we have to go, and we have to be on defensive at a point where we people love math because numbers don't lie, right? So we have to use the stats on our side. We have to use the stats comparatively of what we're doing versus what is actually causing the climate change. But Tatiana, I would urge all of us in this industry, not just the OEM, the manufacturers, but the end users, people that work here. Climate change is real. What pisses the other people off is the fact that some of us go on LinkedIn who are pilots or mechanics. Oh, climate change is not real, not caused by human intervention. You could no longer say those things because they have the evidence, and it makes us look like a fool when you deny climate change. You cannot deny climate change. It is here. It's knocking on your door, and it's knocking on doors of people that are poorer more, more, and more. And then so they will have more to lose than we will have to lose. And that's the problem over here. If you're using something lavish, you have a great lifestyle, and you're able to surpass the broken infrastructure and get yourself a great vacation and expand your business, great. But address the fact climate change is real.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I guess a lot of colleagues will disagree with you and scream, but I see you ready to talk to them.
Yeah.